Okay, I've been working on staghorn fungus. They're absolutely beautiful if you've ever seen one in the wild. They're such a stunning colour of yellow. Um, so this is part that I did the other day. This is one horn, or antler as I'd like to call it. I don't know why they called it staghorn. So this is my clay blend, quite a big chunk of it. I was blending for ages and ages. So it's a translucent clay. When it cures, it looks slightly different. While it's uncured, it's really quite hard to tell what the finished effect is going to be. So all I could do was kind of try my best to get the right colour and the right opacity and cure a test piece. Now, I did, and I was amazed by how accurate it actually was. I think I struck lucky, so I got it right first time, which hardly ever happens. I was so impressed. So, I need to soften it quite a lot first, just to make it malleable. We call it conditioning the clay. And you can do it by rolling it, by squishing it, by squeezing it. Actually, a lot of people use I do use a pasta machine. Pass the clay through and keep on going through, fold and push it through again. Which is just a really effective way of kind of softening the clay, getting all the plasticizers evenly distributed. It's also a really good way of blending colours. Right, I think we're soft enough. Right, now I'm gonna wire these horns. Just when you cure the clay, you cure it in a normal oven. I use a halogen oven, but so you cure it at about 110 to 130 degrees. It does go quite soft. The warmer it gets, the softer it gets. I mean, this is cold and it's not soft at all. This is warmed up in my hands and it's really quite malleable. If you've got weight on the top, when it softens, it will just droop and droop. Which obviously I don't want it to do. I want to keep that foam. So I'm going to wire the centre of it. Probably not all the way up. I don't need to go all the way up. I didn't on that one. But just to take some of the weight. So when it cures, I'm going to leave that at the top. When it cures, it's not likely to flop in the oven. As we were saying on Instagram, nobody likes a floppy horn. Okay, so I'm trying to shove the wire in without piercing to begin with, so I've kind of got to get a feel of where the wire is and bend the clay sausage accordingly. I'm not going to go all the way down. This is my little rack, curing rack with the holes in, so. And actually, this is gonna sit on a wood slice, which I'll pierce holes in, so I need to leave a bit of the wire exposed so I can stick it in there to hold everything in place. I'll use a drop of liquid clay as a glue to hold everything in place. So I'm going to leave some of these wires, some of the wire exposed. Right, I'm going to make sure I get rid of any bits of bark from there. I don't want that in me fungus. Okay, we're there. Right. Form the different horns. I kind of almost pull them into shape. Use it with one of my favourite tools, my little needle tool. This is where it starts to take quite a lot of time. Now, if I go too fast, it'll just break the clay. So there's just a lot of kind of gentle squishing, squeezing, rolling, And I've also got to be really conscious of where that wire is, so that I don't make the wire pierce the edge of the fungus. I think, oh no, that's just a flack. Oh no, it is, no, I can see the reflection there, so the wire's coming through there. So I'm going to bring that way to kind of cover that bit of wire. Right, what you can do as well, if you do get little flecks, so this is surgical spirit, or you can use rubbing alcohol, I don't know, it might be the same thing, I think that might be the American name for it, on the end of a cotton bud. And what it does, it dissolves the top layer of the clay. It wasn't wire, it was a bit of glitter, if you can see that, just on the tip. The surgical spirit kind of dissolves the top layer of the clay, and you can take off bits of dust, dirt, smudges. It's also quite good for smoothing out if you get fingerprints and things on, or little rough marks that you don't want. So before you cure it, this is a polymer clay artist's best friend, especially if you're using a light coloured clay. I always used to hate working in white because polymer clay loves dust, it just attracts it to it. And on the light colours, it really, really shows any tiny fleck, any hair. And I found myself constantly with the knife scraping little layers off, and then you have to smooth it down again. And it was just an endless task, just trying to get all the flecks off. Oh, if I was I make badges using black and white clay together, and you get a little bit of black on your hands, and then touch the white, and then you get black smears. And again, you can use this to smooth over, and it just takes any smears and smudges off. It's wonderful. I was so grateful that I discovered that. See, okay, I've gone too fast. I don't know if you can see the tiny little break there. So I need to bring that back and smooth it over. So just stroking. This is how I make everything. I stroke and I squeeze and I squish. This is why all my creatures are made with so much love, because they're stroked into being. Right. See, I don't want to make it too delicate that it breaks, but also, I'm going for realism. I want you to be able to look at it and think, is that actually a real one? So, we're going quite tiny. Not too tiny. I've worked smaller. See, I don't want to put too much. I don't want to extend it too much. And risk making it more likely to droop in the curing process. There. So you can kind of, as you squeeze the clay, you can almost like pull it into place. The beauty of making something like a flower or a fungus, these things, they're not perfect. They're not, I've broken that as well. I'll work on that when I get down there. They're not totally symmetrical, they're not, absolutely uniform. So you can be a lot more organic in your designing. With this, I don't have an actual plan about what's going where. I'm just going with the flow, as they say, and almost letting it choose where, how it wants to be. Sometimes the clay knows. Right, I'm not going to completely finish this because it's going to take a very long time. But just to give you an idea of how this thing comes to being. So they're slightly not perfectly rounded at the end, so I've been using the needle to kind of create that texture. I think that's where, you know, where they'd split off again into another tine, is that the word, on the antler? I'm going to call them antlers, not horns. Deer don't have horns. So once I've created this texture, I'm going to use chalk pastel to add. Check that. A chalk pastel to add more shading on, because some of the most beautiful staghorn fungi that I've seen have kind of had quite a vivid orange colour at the tips, and it just gives that. It just makes it a bit more interesting. So I'll show you how I do that at the top here. So this it's just chalk pastel sticks, and I've got some fine grade sandpaper. I kind of drag it along to get a nice fine powder. You can get they're called pan pastels, little pastel pots of compressed powdered pastel, and the pigment is so vivid, it's wonderful. And at the moment I can't justify the price. So yeah, I'm kind of putting quite a lot on all around. Just don't want that, I mean, really bright orange at the tips, and then I'll kind of blend it as I go further down the piece so it blends out. And yeah, I only discovered, I think only like a few months, a year ago, that you could use these chalk pastels on unbaked clay like this. You can use them to blend colours as well, but for things like flower petals and fungi, they're just perfect. You can get lovely gradients. Made me very happy indeed. I got quite a lot of dust on the tile as well. I'll have to clean that up later before I start on the next bit. There we go. A little bit of staghorn fungi. I'll put that there for now. When I do it, they'll be a lot closer together and kind of all intertwining with each other. I'll leave you to guess which animals are going to be sheltering under it. Okay, bye.